Dr. John Steinbrecher. See some of the outstanding players leaving the stage. Here's John Steinbrecher as he gets set as the commissioner of the MAC for the 2022 MAC football season.
If the smoke starts billowing out again, that's the signal I've gone too long. So look for that. Good morning, and welcome to the rock version of the Mid-American Conference football kickoff here at Cleveland's House of Blues. You know, it was 70 years ago this year that just down the street from us, what was considered the first rock and roll concert was held, and was hosted by iconic WJW radio disc jockey Alan Freed, who in fact had coined the term rock and roll. And it's the energy and passion of rock and roll music that so much parallels what we see with our football programs in the Mid-American Conference. So today, you're going to have the opportunity to interact with some really interesting and talented student athletes and coaches who compete in the Mid-American Conference. I want to introduce a few special guests who have joined us and make sure the media is aware that they will be available for you to visit with during today's activities. I would like to welcome CFP Executive Director Bill Hancock, Bowl Season Executive Director Nick Carparelli. We have representatives from several bowl games, Eric Rhodes from the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl, and Sherry Dial with the Lending Tree Bowl. And finally, National Coordinator of Football Officials, Steve Shaw, is with us. Thank you all to joining us. In addition, we have a few new additions in the Mid-American Conference this year. Moorhead, Toledo Director of Athletics, Brian Blair, and Western Michigan Director of Athletics, Dan Bartholomew. Welcome to MACtion. You know, earlier this year, the college football lost a member of the coaching community when Eastern Michigan assistant football coach Fred Reed unexpectedly passed. He spent 27 years as a coach, 25 in the collegiate ranks, with 7 years with Coach Creighton at Eastern Michigan. I want to recognize Coach Reed for what he meant to so many student athletes and fellow coaches, and ask that we continue to keep his wife LaShannon and children Kamara and Amari in your thoughts. And incidentally, and on a kind of a neat note, Amari will begin his collegiate football career as a freshman at Eastern Michigan this season. In 2017, the Mid-American Conference provided a 5-year grant of $1 million to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, with the funds provided through the College Football Playoff Foundation, the Cleveland Foundation, and the George Gund Foundation. The primary purpose of the grant was to address the national issue of retaining teachers, especially new teachers in their first 3 years. The program was developed under the leadership of Cleveland Metropolitan School District CEO Eric Gordon, who incidentally is a MAC graduate from Bowling Green, and his staff in collaboration with the Cleveland Teachers Union. Through the Teaching Cleveland grant, new teachers were provided with support programs to help transition to a new city, their classroom, and their new profession. In the first year of this grant, the Cleveland Metropolitan School District had to hire 275 new teachers. In the most recent year, the district only had to hire 15. The first-year retention rate went from 78% to 100%. And the 2-year retention rate moved from 66% to 88%. The results speak for themselves and has resulted in less time and resources being spent on hiring teachers and more invested in supporting a more experienced group of teachers for the children of Cleveland. The success of this program has caught the eye of several cities who have been in town to take a look and perhaps replicate it, as well as the Department of Education. I am pleased to announce today that we have secured what we expect to be approximately $1.8 million over the next 5 years, once all the different board approvals have been finalized, to continue the Teaching Cleveland grant program. Funding is again being generously provided by the College Football Playoff Foundation, the Cleveland Foundation, the George Gund Foundation, and the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. To present the grant, I would like to ask the following to join me on stage. School District CEO Eric Gordon and members of his executive team, Heather Grant, Thomas Ott, and Lee Buddy, the Chief Education Officer from Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb's office, Holly Trefiro, LaWanda Smith and Linda Palumbo King, who are part of the teacher retention program serving as teachers on assignment, Ann Mullins with the George Gund Foundation, Katie Brennan from the Cleveland Foundation, and Bill Hancock from the CFP and College Football Foundation. Congratulations. And if you're wondering about this green apple here, this is the mascot of the College Football Playoff Foundation. Thanks for being here. Since 2004, the Mid-American Conference Football Championship game has been played at Ford Field in Detroit. And I want to inform you that we have concluded a 3-year extension with Ford Field to host the championship through the 2024 season. The Mid-American Conference is the only non-autonomous FBS conference to hold its championship in a neutral venue. Thank you to Detroit Lions President Rod Wood for his continued collaboration and support. And I would encourage you to visit with Bob Wagner, who assists Bill Carollo in the assignment, evaluation, and training of conference football officials, along with National Coordinator of Officials Steve Shaw, regarding new rules and points of emphasis this year. In particular, I would like to draw your attention to the change made on low blocks. Beginning this season and rooted in the philosophy of player safety, low blocks, blocks below the waist, are now illegal except in the tackle box and when the ball is still within the tackle box. Targeting and unsportsmanlike conduct will continue to be points of emphasis. And while we're talking about officiating, let me emphasize to those who want to be a part of football but don't play or coach. A great way to be in the game is to be an official. There is a national shortage of officials, especially at the youth and high school level. If you want to be a part of this great game, officiating is a tremendous way to do it. Don't hesitate to contact my office, and we will get you connected with the right people in your community so you can begin your officiating career. Let's talk a little bit about the enterprise of intercollegiate athletics. Not much been going on lately, has there? The more things change, the more things stay the same. Yogi Berra said it best. It's deja vu all over again, because it was a year ago this time we had just witnessed 2 of the blue bloods of intercollegiate athletics announce their plans to change conferences, setting off a wave of membership realignment, with 6 of 10 FBS conferences having membership changes over the following months. Just recently, the same thing occurred. And to date, while there has been a lot of talk, there has been no further movement. The membership changes we are seeing right now, and that we saw last year, can all be linked back to the 1984 U.S. Supreme Court ruling in the NCAA versus the Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma. And in that case, which was brought by the universities of Oklahoma and Georgia, the court ruled that the NCAA's control over television rights for football games violated the Sherman and Clayton antitrust acts. The ruling unleashed the economic power of television and set the stage for conferences to become independent economic units, and the race was on to attain television revenue, which has grown exponentially since then. So where does that lead us? When news of USC and UCLA moving to another league broke, I advised our membership to be patient, evaluate any information with a critical eye, and continue to look for opportunities. And while much has been written or spoken about possible new alignments of conferences or suggested additions to various conferences, many, if not most of those, make no sense. In scanning the landscape of the FBS, there are very few pieces on board that bring additive value. Adding for the sake of adding members may bring some level of security. It may not bring any additional value to the membership. Continuing to look at the landscape of conference affiliation, I am reminded that to date, no FBS conference of 16 members has been sustainable. Now, one difference this time is the conferences with 16 members are the strongest economically, which was among the factors dooming prior attempts. Are we heading towards a consolidation of conferences into just a handful? I don't know. I don't believe so, but time will tell. What I do think and feel strongly about is that the enterprise of intercollegiate athletics is a more robust and is more healthier when it has a number of vibrant, sound, and stable conferences, all filled with member institutions. We spent the past 14 to 16 months examining an expansion of the college football playoff. This has simply turned into a tremendous event. It's becoming the second most watched championship behind only the Super Bowl. And while there is consensus from the 10 participating conferences in Notre Dame about wanting to expand, we were unable to agree on an expanded format. A 4-team playoff has worked well, but it has some unintended consequences that we need to be mindful of. Inevitably, the focus in any season is about who is going to make the playoff. And currently, with a 4-team field, by the time we get to the end of September, we've gone from thinking about 130 teams to down to 10 or 15 or less. That devalues the final 2 months of the season. Now, just imagine if we would expand that playoff to 12 or to 16. We would go into the final 4 weeks of the season with 40 or 50 teams, or more even, still in the hunt to make the CFP. That would drive increased value to each conference television package and championship game. It would increase ticket sales and intensify interest in college football regular season late into the season. When the CFP commissioners met earlier in June, we had, quite frankly, our most productive conversation in over a year. Now, I came out of that optimistic of where we would go. Now, and I can't predict what the recent membership changes will mean for that, but I am hopeful that we can continue to move forward and can, in short order, find a way to make this tremendous event even better and do so in a manner that increases the value and interest in the regular season and postseason. Last year, the NCAA's Board of Directors appointed a transformation committee to lead the membership through a process of changing the way the association conducts its business. Ohio University Director of Athletics, Julie Cromer, is the co-chair of this committee, and we owe her a debt of gratitude for the time and energy she is putting into this effort on behalf of the membership. For years, the membership of the NCAA has attempted to implement change via evolution. This was inefficient and often ineffective. As an association, we are particularly good at writing new rules, and we are exceptionally non-productive at eliminating rules. We have been attempting transformation, as it turns out, for some time. As an example, let's look at the transfer rules. It took us 7 years to change rules that had been in place since the 1960s. And interestingly, we may be changing those rules again approximately 2 years since their implementation. Change by evolution did not work. So now we will have change by revolution. We have mountains to move, and retrenchment is never an easy, simple, or smooth process. My mother once told me that if you ask God to move a mountain, don't be surprised if you wake up next to a shovel. And so if the transformation effort is to be successful, It will be because all of us, all of our member institutions, are engaged in that effort, not just a committee. This change will come quicker. Conferences will play bigger roles in establishing the standards for its memberships, and the challenges of determining what rules need to be national rules that do not violate antitrust standards, and what rules can be managed at the conference or institutional level. NCAA championships are a priority. It is what ties us together. Additional issues that need significant contemplation include: what is the definition of a student athlete? What is the economic model around that definition? Squad limits, coaching limits, recruiting policies, and the list goes on and on. So the next 6 to 12 months will alter how intercollegiate athletics are conducted. One item that will receive attention is the concept of a common student-athlete experience. That is, what should be the elements that comprise the experience that every student-athlete should enjoy regardless of their place of enrollment. Those may include support services, benefits, and speak to the student-athlete voice at the local, conference, and national level. In this, the Mid-American Conference is well suited, as our student athletes have long had a strong voice in the operation of this conference. A decade ago, after our membership asked how much time should a student athlete be spending each week on their sport, what was then called our Student Athlete Advisory Committee developed a lengthy white paper with a number of recommendations. Among those were recommendations that the conference adopted regarding the regulation of time obligations for student athletes. That white paper and those recommendations guided the NCAA in the establishment of its time obligation requirements. And then 8 years ago, our student athletes informed our leadership that mental health issues should be more closely examined. And this led the conference to studying and ultimately establishing the first conference-wide mental health program in intercollegiate athletics. More recently, and in recognition of the role played by the conference's Student Athlete Advisory Committee, it was renamed the Council of Student Athletes and was formally made part of the conference's governance structure. And as we work through these issues, I am confident the Mid-American Conference is well positioned to transform with other FBS conferences, and part of that confidence lies in the leadership of our membership, a talented and insightful group of presidents, directors of athletics, coaches, and really, really engaged student athletes. And that confidence also rests in what this league is and what it represents, which is a place where elite student athletes can compete at the highest level and earn an education that prepares them for the rest of their lives. And when I talk about elite, of all high school football players who start out, only 2.9% of those young men and or women end up playing Division I football. Think about that. This is an elite group of people. And while others may drift in the direction of an extreme emphasis on the athletic, we believe we can and do deliver both. The start of the season is in under 5 weeks. And finally, we can focus on what occurs on the field instead of all the noise off the field. The final Mid-American Conference football game I watched last season was on New Year's Eve when Central Michigan knocked off an opponent from the Pac-12 in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. And I'm hoping that game set the stage and set the tone for this year. Lots of returning talented players and newcomers, experienced coaches, and challenging schedules. It's time to fly the flag, and it's time for action. Jeremy, I think we have time for some questions.